Hey everyone, welcome back to Rally Caps. It's a podcast for artists, entrepreneurs, and everybody in between. I'm Steven.
And I'm Eric.
Today we've got a different looking set. Actually, slightly different lighting today if you're watching on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
What did we, actually, just before we get into the episode itself, what did we do differently today, Eric?
We made it moody.
Very moody.
we did the filmmaker shadow side thing.
Yes.
No more fill light over here.
No, we just turned it off completely, which let us know in the comments below. Do you like the look?
This vibe.
I think it's really fun. It's very cozy.
We put finally got a hair light for you.
Over here, which is great. So we'll probably fine tune things. I mean, I feel like we're tweaking
we need to get stuff
a little
behind
bit.
you.
Yeah, some
more
stuff on this
texture.
wall. I think some like sand grain posters would be really fun on that
that'd be
wall, or just something there, because this is very blank, and we have all the GBMS stuff in your angle,
Yeah.
which we'll cut to there.
Is your lamp looking straight?
Dude, I don't think so.
I'm fixing it.
That lamp is actually looking kind of crazy over there. That was perfectly timed with the sirens and everything. That was awesome.
How's that now?
Someone left a comment on an episode recently, actually, wow, that one's loud. I can't remember who it was, but they left this very funny YouTube comment. They're like, I really love all the stuff you guys talk about. You provide excellent information, but also I love so much the varying facial expressions that each of you have when sirens go by.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. I feel like it's become a new part of the show.
It's like its own character moment, which I think is really funny.
Yeah.
USA, characters welcome.
Like we have to recognize it every single time because of that.
Yeah,
it's really hard for me to just plow through.
It's very distracting because however loud it sounds in the episode, it sounds about, I'd say, 15 times louder than that in real life.
Yeah, every time I hear it back on an episode, I'm always like, you could barely hear that.
Yeah, they probably always think, oh, those guys are so ridiculous that's not even that loud. I promise you it's so much louder in real life than it is in the recording. But yeah, new look, slightly different tweaked lighting today. Really fun. Just going to keep rolling with some different looks in the coming episodes.
It's fun.
It's fun. It's cool. Having a set like this to experiment with is part of the joy of having a set in the first place. So,
and it's totally rigged to code and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I can't even.
Oh no, yeah, we totally did it with all the proper stuff.
I can't joke about that one in particular because that light is so wildly not good. But it's like up there. It's working.
Some shoestrings and gum.
Yeah, that's more specifically a clamp, just pinning it to the wall right now. That's it. It's not even a sandbag up there.
Great. Oh.
It's really solid.
Yeah. No one's going to touch it.
We know. Why would they?
Yeah.
That'd be crazy if Cyrus did that right now. Cool. So,
Steven, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about marketing yourself without selling your soul. Mm-hmm. Because that, I think, is a common, maybe philosophical issue that a lot of artists and creators will come up against is how do I feel like I retain my integrity as an artist, but also get business? How do I market the things that I'm creating in a way that doesn't feel like I'm shilling to my audience or to the world at large? Yep. We did kind of talk about this on a very specific level in episode 59, which was about why you don't have to hate Instagram Reels. We talked about putting a positive spin on Reels and short form content in general, looking at it less as a awful, evil thing and rather like a literal trailer for the work that you're making in the world. And you can do that in any discipline. It doesn't have to be a movie trailer for filmmakers, but filmmakers can do that. You could do it for your photo work. You could do it for your design work. There's so many ways that you could repurpose just short form vertical stuff as a way to almost treat it as like a little amuse-bouche for the main event. Yeah. It's just a way to get people intrigued. I think you had some recent, I guess, like revelations or insights listening to an episode of Colin Samir as well about thumbnails, because that's a very similar thing, right? Thumbnails being that click-through thing. Do you want to share about that a little bit as well?
Yeah, I think it was in their episode with Preston, I want to say.
I think it was, yeah.
They're talking about just how important that process is. And I think I've found myself so frustrated on YouTube as a platform to have put so much work into the production of a short film, producing something over the course of an entire week and multiple days of editing and storyboarding and, script writing and all this stuff, only to at the last minute, you're just so ready to be done with it. You're so excited to share it. And you're like, oh, I forgot to make a thumbnail. And you just whip it together. And because it's not made with intention, when people are presented it as an opportunity to watch something, they look at it, and if the thumbnail isn't made with intention, it's not showcasing that it's a film made with intention or a video made with intention. So that's super unfortunate.
Yeah.
And it's made me reframe how I need to approach a video when I make it, and making the thumbnail process be part of the whole production. Like finding times where we can intentionally shoot that. And maybe it is at the end, but I think if you go in with that mentality, you're going to have much more success on that platform specifically.
Yep.
And that's a very different process than something like Instagram, because, and I've talked to people about this on YouTube quite a bit, YouTube is serving up videos with thumbnails, with movie posters, essentially. It is very much the Netflix game, people scrolling through Netflix and not choosing something. And YouTube's becoming that same thing, especially for me. Like I go to my main page and I see 12 different thumbnails. I'm like, I don't want to watch any of these. And so since it's turned into that, you know, it's not necessarily you need to sell your soul for a thumbnail or finding the most clickbaity title or thumbnail. But that is a huge part of that process, and it's not at all on Instagram, because the way people are interacting with Instagram, especially as it comes to either main feed or Reels feed, they're just going through. And so that's so much more about the retention of the first 15 seconds. If you want people to kind of stick around and watch what you're doing there. That's a whole can of worms on its own. But even going back to, I thought a bit as you were explaining the trailer thing, as it pertains to Reels or TikToks, I've since deleted TikTok and that conversation. I haven't had it on my phone for months, but I have been watching Reels on Instagram. And I think treating everything like a trailer on that platform can also be a huge disservice to you, because if you put the same amount of time and energy into your Instagram Reels as you do for, say, a platform like YouTube, you are really going to struggle with sometimes the consistency you need to put into a platform like that if you're trying to get something out of it. And so I've seen a lot of people speak on this. I agree as well, saying like your next best reel is already in your camera roll. I think that's a really interesting concept, where it's, if you're just constantly kind of documenting what you're doing and the process of what you're doing, it can be really powerful on these platforms, because the way I see it is like a YouTube channel and the library you have there, or your website and the portfolio that exists on your website, is the place where people are more intentionally looking to find the big ticket item work that you do. If they're really interested in hiring you or partnering with you, doing a brand integration, commercial work, any of that, those are the places they're going. Whereas it seems as if Instagram and faster paced platforms are just a place where you can be discovered, and it's the top of the funnel of whatever you do. And so in that sense, my philosophy in that approach is, how can I engage with a platform like Instagram in a way that's just so much more relatable? And as a consequence of the work, at least in the stills work that I do, like share the beauty of the stills work that I do. I'm not doing it for the sake of Instagram. It's either my personal film work or my client photography. And the outcome that I have the privilege of sharing is that I did some really hard work for paid money with this client, or really intentionally shot my family or whatever, and I'm just sharing that. And in turn, that's a really good way to market myself in the stills front. But when it comes to films and videos, it's like the frequency of how often I make a super high quality short film, long form YouTube video, like that frequency doesn't match the pace of Instagram. So if you're wanting to use Instagram as a place to grow your brand and market yourself, maybe you should start considering more of what's relatable instead of what's so polished. I think if you can kind of release that, it can be really powerful for you. And something that people don't talk about a lot is just Instagram stories too. You know, so this is a long spiel, but I've thought about it a lot over the years and figuring out how I want to invest my time into putting things out there
Yeah.
on these platforms, because Instagram for me now, as much of consumption that it is, I almost exclusively look at it as a business tool. Like I don't really, and entertainment, you know, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Like it's clear that I go to it for entertainment as far as watching reels, but I'm really not interacting with it for inspiration personally. I know a lot of other people will, but I see it as like a really good way to get connected to people, to share the work that I am doing, and to further extend my creative career in sharing all that I do.
Yep.
So out of that, especially as it pertains to like reels and to Instagram stories, I really wanted to ask you a lot about the design work that you've been growing over the past 3-4 months now. We've talked about it in previous episodes, how you've started in design as becoming the majority of your business. And, you know, by the prevalent amount of sticky notes on your desk and open projects, I'm always just see that volume of sticky notes just kind of remain the same over the past few months. And so I would love to hear some of the insight, because I think a lot of listeners of Rally Caps come from photo video background. Yeah. And so to hear a different artistic medium that's turned into creative career, I'm really interested to hear how you specifically are using Instagram, because you've paused on YouTube for a little bit, and where you see the value of marketing yourself as a graphic designer, brand designer on Instagram.
That is a great loaded question.
I probably went off the list.
No, that's fine. I mean, there is no list. This is a very unstructured episode. I think to break it down a little bit, this is I think this episode is going live in July at some point. We're recording it in June. This is maybe the third full month that fourth, I'll say this is the 4th month that I'm in business as a designer. Yes.
Congrats on half a year of consistent uploading weekly.
Dude, we're doing it. This is episode 81, I think.
Crazy.
Which is so cool. Extremely rewarding to have been the most consistent we've practically ever been, outside of like the very first year that we did this, which is really like 3 years ago.
And discipline and consistency is compounding. Like it makes us want to record episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. I think we're getting better at this also. And I've noticed also it's easier for us to not only make episodes on the fly, but it also gives us the bandwidth to cook on ideas that we want to put more time into, which is really exciting as well. Yeah. I think we have like 4 episodes that we're doing more research for and more in-depth investigative work for, if you want to call it that, just to give even more value in the conversations that we're having. Instead of, you know, oh, I think this, or, oh yeah, I heard that, or maybe it's this thing. It's like we're actually giving timelines for stuff and almost going that kind of Johnny Harris style of it's backed up by actual evidence and context, which is really exciting. So we have more episodes like that coming out soon, and hopefully more guest episodes as well, which is fun. But as far as design is concerned, I've been thinking about this a lot lately now that this is officially March, April, May, wrapping up the 4th month of doing this pretty consistently for clients. And I think I'll start by saying this. I think I have decided that I want to create a separate account and page to house all this work. Primarily because the volume has been so high. And the audience that I've built on Instagram is really rooted in photo. And I want to still maintain my identity as a photographer. And I also want to share that work with the people that have signed up to view that work and who have supported me and followed me for so long now. I don't necessarily want to just flip things 180 and it's just a design page now, because that's not what people started following me for. And I love that there is a hybrid audience that wanted to follow me for my photo work and have now seen my design work and said, this is also so cool. I love what you're doing. And then a smaller subsection of that group have said, I want to hire you, which is kind of leading into this idea of like, well, if people are wanting to hire me just from the handful of Instagram posts that I've made and the maybe dozen or so stories that I've shared, like nice, well thought out, good stories explaining slide by slide my intention behind the designs, the thought process that goes into making the designs, what would it be like if I have a full-on page that is actually showcasing all of the work that I'm doing, because I've only shared a very small fraction of it so far. And I'd really like to be able to just share more of it, honestly, just see all of it laid out together. Because I think on a personal level too, that would be really inspiring for me to get to see all of my work laid out in that way. And it's a place too where I think I could embrace Reels a little bit more and lean into the design reel world and not feel as if I'm kind of like dancing between two lines algorithmically, even with trying to use my photo page as a design page. I think I'd actually stand to benefit more from making reels like that in a page that is exclusively design focused.
Fully agree.
So I've been, for the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks, been trying to brainstorm some names for like a little studio moniker that could be the design branch of things. Keep things still not necessarily hybrid, but still integrate design into my personal photo stuff, because that is still my largest audience that I have. It is where the majority of my clients have come from, is just me sharing on stories and posts. And I still want to engage with photographers and followers out there who like my design work still. So I think I'll still share that in the stories format. Absolutely. Because to your point, I think it's really like stories, I think, is maybe an underutilized tool for a lot of people. It's incredible how you can engage with people in that way. And I don't know, there feels like there's something special about that. Like I've had more inquiries come from stories than I have from posts. So I'm still going to keep putting design stuff there, but it will be with the kind of intention of booking. And also go check out my page over here where you can see even more if you are interested in following along for like the influx of design work that will come onto that page when it does, because it feels crazy to like look at the amount of projects that I've delivered so far and be like, oh, I haven't shared more than half of them, 80% of them probably at this point.
And you don't want the problem of too much growth too quickly. So just being strategic in how you kind of let that trickle out.
I wanted to be very careful about that. I wanted high volume of clients first so I could prove the concept, but I didn't want to immediately branch out and be like, this is its own thing right from day one. I just wanted to like test the waters a little and see how things were going to go. And things have been going so well that I want to give it its own space.
Clearly works.
Which is really exciting. I'm very grateful for it. I'm very excited about it. I have so many awesome projects on the horizon too, including 2 projects for you, actually, your personal and your running branding. And it's really cool. It's really exciting. And I will be creating that kind of studio thing at some point and have its own life on Instagram. So that's kind of how I intend to use it going forward, is giving it its own house. And I think there is value in that too, having, as much as, we talk about how much the algorithm sucks and stuff, and having to cater to it and whatever. I think there is value to at least understanding how to best utilize it and how to make it work for you as much as possible. And I think I'm doing a disservice to myself as both a photographer and a designer to try to like smash both of those things into a page that is really existing for the sake of one of those things. And I want to respect my audience too. Like, I'm not making this work for them inherently. They're not the first people at the forefront of my mind, but they've also supported me tremendously over the years. And I still want to show up as the photographer that they know, and then just sprinkle a little bit of that design and be like, hey, if you like me as a person and you like this design stuff, maybe you could go over here and check this out too. So
subtlety.
I
think even something I've noticed recently about stories as well, kind of going back to the point I was making on YouTube, people are choosing to watch your story. Stories don't just pop up. And so they see that you have one up at the top, and then they're choosing to continue to interact with it and scroll through it. And I think to your point about all the lines and writing things and explaining your process in written form, I actually think that pushes your stories more. Because algorithmically, when people stop on stories and read them, it's indicating to Instagram that this is something worth stopping and reading and watching and looking at.
Totally.
And I've noticed that on my own personal brand side. I've just I don't feel like I've had a whole ton to share as far as like what's happening in my life, because it's so dominated by running.
For sure.
That whenever I have this kind of deep thought, I'm just putting it on a black screen and writing a paragraph and sticking it on my stories. And it's so funny how much interaction, how much more reach
Yeah.
those get
Yeah.
because the idea connects with people, but they're stopping and they're reading it. And I think it is kind of a detox from all the stuff of just like dopamine, movement. And it's just this, and I saw it from Ryan Booth. He does it a lot.
Yeah, he does.
He'll
Yeah.
just a full paragraph, an essay in story format, and I'll sit there and I'll read all of it.
Whole thing. Yeah.
And I think people are hungry for that kind of stuff. I think that's why YouTube as a platform is thriving with long form content now. That's like way more uncut, which I can't tell you how excited I am about what we shot and the video that's going to come out of that.
It's
going to be like a
sick.
45-minute video.
It's going to be awesome.
Just your process of photographing me, what the creative side looks like for someone that's not myself, but interacting with a creative that has such a clear vision. And even the way you photographed me that day and how excited you were through all of that. But the one image I shared on the track, everyone was just like, this is otherworldly.
Yeah.
Like the response was crazy. And it's just one image.
Did you experience that on a personal side also? Like people were...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and what was funny is I think something like that, and I didn't hire you just because I was like, well, if I hire Steven, it's going to give me so much more traction and blah, blah, blah. Like I'm not using it as a strategic, but it is a consequence because you shot it so differently in a way that people aren't used to seeing something like that. So I shared the photo on my run Instagram, just the photo by itself.
We'll throw that up on YouTube right now. Yeah.
And then I put that image on my story.
Yes.
And tagged you like shot by Steven. And so many people followed my running account because they saw that image on the photo side.
Oh, interesting.
I think because I might talk about running or whatever, but it took a striking visual image for them to actually go, wait, Eric runs? And then they're discovering the page and they're like, oh, whoa. And like, I like running, blah, blah, blah. And so I think that dynamic is just so fascinating. And it is that whole concept of what happens on these platforms when you do something different visually, counterintuitive to how the platform typically works. Not using the trending audio, but something that is, dunking on yourself for a joke that's really funny or something that so many other people experience.
Yeah.
I think those angles are what make it so special and actually make it worthwhile with the connections you make with people instead of just the mindlessness.
Totally.
Of what can I produce today just to put something out into the world. Because there's so much more value in thinking intentionally about what you put on that platform as far as relatability, entertainment, quality, versus just the volume of it all. Because the volume tends to underperform. It burns you out. But the intentionality when it strikes is like, we talked, and we can discuss more Alan Peters.
Oh, yeah.
He just broke down his format of reels and how he's found so much success in them recently. And it's all story driven. It's all hook driven in the first 15 minutes. It's clickbait, but he delivers on the promise of what he's going to change, what he's going to do. And because of that, in 1 month, he gained how many followers?
Like 280,000 people or something.
Like an unbelievable amount.
It's crazy.
Because of this formula and intentionality. And it's really cool to see someone think so intentionally about those things. Because you're like, he's not just sharing his work, he's sharing it with so much intention. He's using the framework of a typical story that doesn't necessarily follow the framework of how people make reels. Because they're like, okay, I'm going to use that. I'm never the same, gonna do me wrong. And like, same. And it's funny if people are listening a year from now, they're like, I remember that song.
Oh, yeah. Wow. What a throwback. When TikTok was still around.
But, how do I make it so much more engaging than just trying to replicate everything else?
Okay, so that feels like a good segue to kind of unpack what I'm sure some people are probably thinking is, I don't have a gimmick.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, so Alan's a really good example because he is a professional graphic designer. That is his full job. And then he found a way to build up a social audience to explain, what you were just unpacking there. He basically redoing, huge brands logos and reformatting them and making them extremely cool. Just very interesting takes on, Gatorade and all of these enormous, like, beloved brands that anyone would recognize and anyone would want to see reformatted.
Yeah.
So there is, I think, for probably some artists, like a bit of a split personality there. They might feel like they have a split personality having to do those two things, where it's like, okay, well, this is my work and I treat it like the art that it is. I don't necessarily have, or even maybe want to do something like that is really optimized for social interaction. How do we brainstorm something like that for them? Like, do you feel like it's necessary for them to do that? Or is there maybe a different way that feels less socially driven, that still, like, honors the integrity of, like, their work, but gives them a way to interact and, like, be relatable, like you said? Because that's, like, what it comes down to, is like, how do I just, like, create something for the internet that helps me engage with people online, gives some of my personality, and also showcases my work, that eventually, like, the whole goal is, like, to drive more work. That kind of goes back to, like, the trailer analogy also, is like, how do I, like, just do this thing that works online that ultimately, like, just pushes anyone who sees it to inquire further within, like you said too, like on your website, your portfolio, all these places where this is the serious stuff, this is the stuff that people would hire me for. How do we connect those two things?
I think, it's a question of, what do I want my funnel to be? What does the top of the funnel look like? How wide do I want that to be? How narrow is it going to be at the bottom? I like asking questions and answering questions like this about internet usage and the usage of the internet for marketing purposes and creative entrepreneurship, because all of it is based off of why. All of it is based off of you asking why repetitiously to no end. Of really digging to the core, because, like, there are specific personalities I see in niches that are just doing the trending stuff, and they don't mind doing that, actually. Like, they actually found a way to consistently do what is trending, and they actually just enjoy the process of volume. And it's successful for them because they want their funnel to be crazy wide at the top, and it might be because they're being subsidized by sponsorships. And the more numbers they get, the bigger their sponsorships are going to be with certain brands. So that's the game they're playing. Whereas I love the example of Alan Peters. I love the example of people who are just absolute masters of their craft in specific fields, because they just have this crazy unfair advantage of coming to the platform. And he is, like, really a 1-2 punch, because he could just come in and be like, here's my incredible design work in a beautiful format, in a reel, and people will be like, wow, this is so great. But his funnel would only be this wide. But he's decided to make it 10 times, 100 times wider by going, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it in a way where it showcases my skill in a non-client environment. That's actually just, I would assume it's really fun for him to redesign these things.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But I can imagine that over time he would be exhausted by doing that format over and over and over. And so, but the game he is playing, like, very clearly in the video he just made, is I'm trying to get a lot of followers here. Like, I'm trying to get a lot of people in the door to see it. It's like 6-pronged, because then he's doing these brand redesigns and these brands are seeing it. No doubt.
Oh yeah.
Or brands like them are seeing it and they're like, want that. Would love to see how he does ours. And then we might buy it from him. But he's clearly like trying to drum up a lot of emotion, because it's not people who are just so stoked on it. People who know and love these brands and love the logos are like, you ruined it. You know? And so it creates a conversation as well. But then we saw that in that video, he had a plug at the end to be like, hey, subscribe to my Instagram. It's just $5 a month, It's like, then there's a call to action and it's business, And I love that approach. I think as long as personally, for me, if as long as I'm excited about making that content, that video, and it feels sustainable for me, and it creates a new revenue stream or a way to diversify, I'm obsessed with that. I love the 5-6 prong energy because I do that on a much smaller scale with my work, in it being so multifaceted and double dipping when I feel like I can. Very quickly realize that the run stuff shared on my main Instagram does not fly. No one cares.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a rip about your stupid running? But when I photographed the new shoes sent me on medium format film and scan it and film myself scanning it, all of a sudden that crowd's like, oh, this is really interesting. And then the running crowd's like, oh, I love these shoes. And there's that kind of blend. And it's just similar to what you're talking about with the design work in your photo. Like, So no, there's just no answer to, there is no one right way to go about it. But my answer I always come back to is like, how are you being intentional? And in Preston's episode of Colin and Samir as well, the whole, like, what is your, like, it's a 1-page PDF, fill it out. What is your life? Like, what is it going to be in 5 years? What's your plan? What's your foundation? Where are you going? Nobody sits down and thinks about that stuff. And it can just be so foundational in how you approach your day to day. If you just zoom out and you're like, what do I want to be doing in 5 years? What do I want my business to look like in 5 years? That's going to dictate the content I make today. Because if it's going towards that goal, great, let's pursue it. And that gives you the vision and tenacity to want to keep doing it that way and not just float aimlessly.
Totally. Is okay to distill some of that then, to kind of go back to the title of the episode, which is marketing yourself without selling your soul. It sounds like the kind of two pillars is one being vulnerability, to be able to market yourself in a way that feels genuine to you, that still honors your work and still drives people to it, but does it in a way that is also, the second word being, relatable. And I think that relatability is really rooted in empathy more than anything else. How do I be honest and be genuine with people online who I am as a person? How do I do that in a way that can also connect with other people? I think just by virtue of doing something that feels true to you, you are going to connect with maybe not a massive audience, but definitely with your audience, with the people that relate to you as a person. We actually used Danny as an example in this episode recently, within the last like 4 episodes or something like that. And we talked about how he started his YouTube channel as like a mini Peter McKinnon with that energy. And that was disingenuous to who he was as a person. And then he switched that. He was himself. He was the soft-spoken, I love you, bye guy. And people loved that person because that is who he is as a person. We have such a good radar for when other people are faking it. As humans, I think like we just have that sense. And when people are being honest and genuine and they love what they're doing and they're showing up as themselves, I think we also glom onto that. It's just like, oh my gosh, like this guy is just the best, whoever it is. And I think keeping those two like core tenets at the front of your mind, if you are in the middle of, hitting a gold mine rush on short form stuff as you're using it to complement your business, or you're listening to this right now and you're like, well, I have a business that I love and I love the work that I'm doing, but I hate being on camera, or I hate having to make short form stuff. And I think it's the worst thing ever. I think reevaluating that could be wise. You also don't have to do that. It's not a one size fits all thing, but if you are at least interested in it, but feel scared to get into it, I think there's absolutely an audience out there that would connect with who you are as a person rather than you trying to fit a mold with the most trending audio.
Yeah, because to the point I was saying earlier, the people who do the trending stuff and do it at volume, the key to that is that they actually enjoy that process. That is true to how they perform. Sure, they might need to be transparent with you and like actually figuring out, is that truly what you want? I mean, I'm genuinely convinced I see certain people doing that and I'm like, no, they're like having a blast because they love the game.
And that is the job for them.
No, it's just like how wide can the reach get? Like what worked in getting that. And that's not an artistic mindset. That is just a fully business marketing mindset. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not how I operate, but there are things that I like from it. There are things that I would want to use that are attractive to me, but I know personally through experience that doing that consistently would not be fulfilling for me artistically, or what the career I want to build or have. And yeah, I think now more than ever, I feel like as YouTube grew in popularity, as these platforms have grown in popularity, especially video content and people learning and seeing how people perform. Let's be honest, this performance on camera, there was a window of time for 3 to 4 years where it was like everyone being the same. And that still exists. And I would argue that that kind of sameness is pretty superficial in every niche.
Yeah.
But as it has grown and expanded into people like Danny and Preston, who are very clearly being themselves, is so powerful because the people seeing the difference and seeing that trajectory being different than the sameness, they're so attracted to it because they, of course it's authentic. Why would they do that? It's not supposed to work, you know? But if it's that empathy piece, like I feel that way, I am that way, I connect with this person, that's where it's, in my opinion, just super beautiful. And it doesn't require a massive funnel at the top. A consequence of it might be a massive funnel at the top.
Right.
But yeah, and then I love those natural consequences when you're pursuing it with authenticity then. Because I think if you're working hard, being nice to people, being yourself, showing up regularly, not burning yourself out, I'm convinced that grows that funnel for you and on both sides, in the top and the bottom, and leads to growth in your business. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
That feels like a pretty good place to end, actually. Yeah. I feel like this doesn't need to be overdrawn or kind of belabored at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like this is exactly what we wanted to communicate today with the episode.
The set lighting fit the mood of today's episode.
It was very cozy, very intimate, and very earnest.
Yeah.
It was really good. So, yeah, we just wanted to, I don't know, chat about this openly, candidly. I
guess the last thing I want to say is you might be afraid to make stuff online.
Yeah.
You may be hesitant to it.
Yeah.
But if there is that inkling, like you said, this is kind of what I always champion on my channel and platforms is it's free. Like it's free, it's free marketing. So in my opinion, if you have that philosophy of showing up earnestly with empathy, being yourself, and you enjoy the process of making that stuff, it is an insane way to market yourself as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's absolutely free. It's just you spending time to do it. So yeah, I really hope that this is encouraging to people to want to start it if they're on that. And I hope that if anyone's listening who has no desire to do that, where it's like, yeah, that's not what I want to do with my life and career. It's like, I fully commend that decision.
Yeah.
Like, go be so good at that thing outside of Instagram.
Yeah. You don't need it.
No.
But it is there if you want to.
Yeah.
One size does not fit all in this case. I think for a lot of artists that is certainly the case. It's like, I just don't want to.
Don't sell your soul.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And you know, if that is the conclusion that you come to at the end of the day, that is also perfectly okay.
Yeah.
But I hope us kind of unpacking some of this stuff helped any of you on the fence that are maybe like, I kind of want to start. I'm kind of into it. I don't love all the reels that I see. I don't love short form, but like it could be helpful for my business. Hopefully these recommendations are enough to kind of push you over the other side of the fence and just try it. Just do it. Like, you also don't have much to lose.
Yeah.
You know, if it doesn't work, if you try it for a month and it just doesn't feel right, cool, scrap it. You can delete all those reels, archive them, get rid of them. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah. But if you are kind of feeling that desire to connect with, again, your audience, not the entire internet, You just want to find your people out there, your 100 true fans. I think they exist, and I think it would be worth trying. So, speaking of our 100 true fans, if you enjoyed this episode of Rallycast, leave it a like on YouTube. Leave a comment down below with how you feel about short form content, because we would love to hear that, and other ways that you're marketing yourself and your business and your creative endeavors. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave a review there and share this to a friend also who's maybe going through the same struggles. Maybe they're on the fence about all the short form options and all the ways that you can market yourself these days. Chat with them about it and engage with us in the comments below, because we would love to chat more about it. But thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And as always, as is Rallycap's 2024 tradition, we will see you next week, because you better believe we got another episode next week.
Second half of 24 coming in hot.
That is so crazy to think about, actually.
Yeah, yikes.
Wow, we're officially in the second half of 2024.
Years go by faster when you're older.
Yeah.
It's math.
What was the cool slogan you came up with last episode?
Oh, I don't remember.
Take a road and you'll get there.
Get there. Doesn't matter which road you take, as long as you get there.
Get there.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.